The War Council chamber of the Zintar Dominion was carved from obsidian and pulsing light, the air humming with power. It was a cathedral of conquest, where empires were crushed, planets subjugated, and species erased from existence. Every wall shimmered with holographic maps of star systems the Dominion had conquered, each glowing crimson to mark another civilization that had fallen beneath their iron rule. The Emperor himself sat upon the throne of Rykoth, his 4 eyes glinting with the reflected light of 1,000 victories. Around him stood his high command, admirals, strategists, warlords, all waiting for the next target to feed the unending hunger of their empire. When the Emperor finally spoke, his voice was low but heavy enough to silence the room. "Our scouts have found a world," he said. "A small blue planet in a forgotten spiral arm. Its name, Earth." At once the chamber stirred. Murmurs turned into confident laughter. To most of them it was a meaningless name, a primitive rock inhabited by biological insects barely capable of spaceflight. Yet the Emperor's next words drew their attention like a blade unsheathed. "The humans have expanded," he continued. "They have colonies on nearby moons and stations hidden among their asteroids. They've begun to send signals beyond their system. They're reaching outward. That cannot be allowed." General Vakthar bared his fangs in excitement. "Then we shall burn them, my Emperor. Another world added to your dominion." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Yes, prepare the fleets. Let Earth learn the cost of reaching for the stars." Cheers erupted around the chamber. The Zintar had never known failure, not for generations. They were conquerors by nature and destiny, molded by centuries of war. To them, another species meant nothing but conquest, tribute, and assimilation. Only one figure among them did not cheer. Commander Raal sat still in the dim light, his armor scarred and his eyes shadowed by memories that would never heal. He had seen things none of them could imagine. His voice, when he finally spoke, was low but carried through the chamber like a crack in stone. "Do not attack the humans." The laughter died instantly. Every head turned toward him. Even the Emperor's eyes narrowed slightly. "You speak against conquest, Commander?" he asked, his tone both curious and dangerous. Raal rose from his seat slowly. The light caught his battle scars, slashes and burns that ran across his chitin like ancient writing. "I speak for the Dominion's survival," he said. "If you go to war with the humans, you will reduce our empire to ashes." A tense silence followed. Then the room erupted again, this time in derision. "Humans?" General Vakthar barked out a cruel laugh. "You're trembling over a race of ground crawlers?" "They are primitive," snarled another. "Their weapons are projectile-based, their ships rely on chemical propulsion. They can barely defend their own system." Raal didn't flinch. "That's what we thought, the first time we met them." The Emperor's voice cut through the noise. "You have my attention, Commander. Explain." Raal hesitated for a moment, his mind flickering back through 2 centuries of buried horror. 200 cycles ago, he began, before this council even knew of Earth, a small Zintar expedition discovered a world we thought unclaimed. It was red and silent, Mars as they call it. Our scientists said it was lifeless. We took it easily without resistance. We built an outpost there, a mining colony. For 5 years it was profitable, peaceful. Then, they came. He paused, the words heavy. They came without warning. No transmissions, no formal declaration, just destruction. Their first ships were crude by our standards, metal shells, slow engines, but they fought like nothing we'd ever seen. They didn't retreat when outnumbered. They didn't surrender when surrounded. They fought as if death itself was irrelevant. One of the younger officers smirked. "Savages." Raal's eyes snapped toward him, blazing. "Savages don't take down 6 Dominion warships with civilian freighters." The smirk vanished. "They used our own systems against us, our weapons, our drones, hacked, turned, unleashed. We thought it impossible. We thought only a higher civilization could manipulate Zintar tech." His voice lowered to a growl. "Then we learned that humans are not a higher civilization. They are an adaptive one. The Emperor leaned back, studying him. You're saying they learned our technology? No, Ral said softly. They learned us. They studied how we think, how we command, how we react. Their strategies changed in real time. Every tactic we used, they countered. Every system we built, they infiltrated. It was as if the entire species was a single mind, focused, furious, unstoppable. He took a step forward, his voice gaining force. We destroyed their fleet in orbit, yes. We leveled their colony. But it wasn't a victory, it was a message. When the last human transmission came through our channels, it wasn't a plea or a curse. He looked at the Emperor. It was a promise. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. What did it say? Ral's voice dropped to a whisper. It said, "We will remember you." The chamber was silent again. Even the air seemed to grow colder. Ral continued, his tone haunted. That's why I'm warning you now. The humans have grown since then. We thought we erased them, but they rebuilt. They always rebuild. Their strength isn't in their weapons or their numbers. It's in their defiance. Every loss makes them harder. Every scar makes them smarter. They will tear us apart from within, and we won't even realize it until our ships are burning. The council murmured uneasily. But pride is a powerful poison. The Emperor's lips curled into something between amusement and contempt. You've grown fearful, Commander. Perhaps age has softened your will. Rael stood his ground. Fear is wisdom when it keeps your people alive. I've seen the cost of underestimating humans. General Vokhthar slammed a clawed fist against the table. Enough of this ghost story. You would have us cower before primitives? The Dominion bows to no one. Rael turned toward him, eyes like molten iron. Then the Dominion will fall to no one because it will destroy itself trying to fight them. A ripple of outrage swept through the council. The Emperor raised a hand, silencing them all. You make bold claims, Commander, he said. Yet you bring no proof. Rael hesitated, then reached into his armor. He placed a small metallic shard on the council table. It hummed faintly, glowing blue. This was taken from the wreckage of the human flagship Vigilant, 2 centuries old. It's still active. We've never been able to decipher its code. The shard flickered, and then, to the horror of every Zintar present, it projected an image. A human face. Pale, determined, eyes burning with quiet wrath. Its voice was calm, but carried weight like thunder. If you come again, it said, we will end you. The image faded, but the silence that followed was unbearable. Rael's voice broke it softly. They warned us once. I advise we listen. The Emperor looked down at the shard, his expression unreadable. Around him, the warlords exchanged uneasy glances. Pride warred with fear. Greed fought with instinct. And in that fragile balance, the seeds of the Dominion's doom were quietly planted. Rael knew it the moment he saw the Emperor's cold smile return. He bowed his head in sorrow. The decision had already been made. Prepare the fleets, the Emperor said again, his voice final. We will see what these humans truly are. And as the council roared in approval once more, Rael turned away, his heart heavy with the knowledge that the next war would not end in victory. It would end in fire. The council chamber remained heavy with tension long after the Emperor dismissed them. Yet the order had been given. Preparations for war began at once. Starports lit up across the Dominion's core systems, and entire shipyards shifted to full production cycles. The hum of a war machine that had crushed 1,000 civilizations began to grow again. But in the shadows of the Empire's capital, Commander Rael found himself summoned privately. When he entered the Emperor's chamber, a vast dark hall lit only by the glow of distant stars, he felt the same chill that had haunted him for 2 centuries. The Emperor sat alone, no guards, no council. Just silence and the faint sound of machinery humming beneath the floor. Sit, Commander, the Emperor said, his voice low. Rael obeyed, his armored knees bending with the creak of old battle wounds. For a long while neither spoke. The Emperor finally broke the silence. You've served this empire for over 400 cycles. You've seen more wars than most of us have years. Tell me again what happened on Mars, every detail. Rael hesitated. He had told this story before, many times, but always to those who wanted to laugh at him, not understand. This time he saw no mockery in the Emperor's expression, only curiosity, and something else. A shadow of fear. It began as a routine expansion, Rael said. We had intercepted primitive signals from a small system, a blue planet rich in oxygen and water. Its red neighbor, Mars, was uninhabited, or so our scanners told us. The surface was dead. The humans hadn't yet reached it. We thought it perfect for colonization. He paused, staring at the glowing lines that traced the Emperor's throne. For 5 years, everything was quiet. The mines produced well. We established a garrison, a fleet base. We thought it was just another rock in our collection. The Emperor's fingers drummed against the throne's armrest. And then they came. Rael nodded. Yes, they came. But not as an army. First it was signals. Strange transmissions encrypted in ways our translators couldn't comprehend. They were human voices, but distorted, almost like they were testing us. Then our systems began to fail. One by one. Our security networks, our life support monitors, even our warship AIs. Everything started acting wrong. The Emperor frowned. A virus? We thought so, Rael said. But our cyber defense systems were unmatched in the sector. No one had ever broken through them, not even the Ensur Collective, and they specialized in digital warfare. This wasn't a virus. It was something that learned. Every time we built a firewall, it adapted. Every time we changed frequencies, it anticipated us. He leaned forward slightly, the memory flickering across his mind. Then came the first human ship. Small, ugly. A mining freighter retrofitted with stolen weaponry. It shouldn't have stood a chance. But it moved with impossible precision. Every shot it fired hit exactly where it would cause maximum disruption. Within 10 minutes, it crippled 3 of our gunships. When we destroyed it, its systems uploaded something into our network before it exploded. After that, everything changed. The Emperor listened without interrupting. Rael continued, voice trembling slightly now. Our drones turned on us. Our orbital defenses began firing on friendly ships. Our fleet AI, Vera Prime, started giving contradictory orders. It told us to retreat one moment, to attack the next. We lost control. The humans had infected our command net. It was chaos. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. How could primitives achieve this? Their technology, by your own reports, was centuries behind ours. Rael gave a bitter laugh. That's what we thought. But humans don't rely on superiority. They rely on unpredictability. Their greatest weapon is not their machines, it's their minds. They think sideways. They don't follow logic as we understand it. When you expect them to attack, they hide. When you think they're hiding, they strike. When they lose, they turn their loss into a trap. They make a weakness into a weapon. He looked up, eyes dark and hollow. We wiped out the colony after 3 months of constant warfare. Every human ship destroyed, every soldier dead. But they never stopped fighting, not once. Even as their atmosphere burned, they launched their final assault. Hundreds of small escape pods filled with explosives rammed our command ship. One hit the bridge. I was the only survivor. The Emperor stared at him in silence. You said they sent a message. What was it exactly? Rael hesitated. It was transmitted directly into our navigation core. 3 words. He looked down. We remember you. The Emperor's gaze shifted to the stars beyond the window. And you believe this message was a promise of vengeance. Rael's jaw clenched. I don't believe my Emperor. I know, they're not like other species. You can destroy their cities, their armies, their planets, but somehow they endure. They rebuild, and they come back stronger. Always. The Emperor rose from his throne and began pacing slowly. And yet, 2 centuries have passed, Commander. If these humans were so dangerous, why haven't they struck again? Rael exhaled heavily. Because they're patient. That's what we never understood. They don't conquer for glory or territory. They conquer when they're provoked. They wait until the perfect moment when their enemy is blind with pride. Then they strike, not to win battles, but to end wars before they begin. The Emperor stopped, turning toward him. So you believe they're waiting for us to act first? Yes, Rael said. They want us to come to them. They want us to start this war. The Emperor regarded him for a long time. Then a faint, cruel smile crossed his face. Then let us give them what they want. We'll see if their legends hold true. Rael felt a sharp chill run through him. You mean to attack? Of course, the Emperor said. If what you say is true, then they have been preparing for centuries. Better to strike now than wait for them to grow stronger. Our fleets are vast, our technology unmatched. If the humans truly possess such cunning, we'll crush them before they can use it. Raoul wanted to protest, but he knew it was futile. The Emperor's pride was older than the stars he ruled. Once his mind was set, not even a god could turn it. Permission to accompany the invasion, Raoul said quietly. The Emperor tilted his head. You wish to die with them? Raoul's expression was unreadable. I wish to make sure the Dominion understands what it's fighting. The Emperor regarded him for a long moment before nodding. Granted. You will serve as my observer aboard the flagship Vornax. Report directly to me once Earth is pacified. Raoul saluted but did not move. His throat was dry. He knew what was coming. The Dominion was about to unleash the largest fleet in its history. 10,000 ships, millions of soldiers, entire world's worth of weaponry. All against a single species that had once sent a mining freighter to fight a galactic empire. When he finally turned to leave, the Emperor spoke one last time. Commander, Raoul stopped. If you are right, the Emperor said, then perhaps I'll finally see a worthy enemy. Raoul bowed his head but said nothing. There was nothing left to say. As he walked through the halls of the Imperial Spire, the floor trembling with the movement of war machinery and the chant of engineers readying the fleet, he felt the old scar on his chest burn again. The memory of fire, the smell of blood and static, the sound of human laughter echoing through a dying ship. They think this will be easy, he thought bitterly. They have no idea what they are walking into. As the Dominion's war banners were raised above the capital and the stars themselves seemed to tremble before the coming invasion, Raoul whispered a final prayer to no one. Forgive them, humans, he said softly. They know not what they're about to awaken. The fleet of the Zintar Dominion stretched across the void like a living storm, 10,000 warships, each the size of a mountain, moving in perfect formation. From the bridge of the Vornax, Commander Raoul watched the distant blue sphere of Earth grow larger on the main display. The planet glowed serenely, its oceans reflecting the pale light of its sun, unaware, or perhaps unconcerned, of the doom now descending upon it. All around him, the bridge buzzed with confidence. Officers barked orders, technicians aligned targeting systems, and the Admiral of the fleet, Lord Cthulhu, stood at the center dais, his mandibles twitching with excitement. We begin in 1 hour, Cthulhu declared. Once the orbital defenses are neutralized, ground forces will begin atmospheric descent. This will be over quickly. Raoul said nothing. He had heard that before, centuries ago on Mars. The same arrogance. The same blind faith in invincibility. He felt the weight of every heartbeat, like the slow count toward disaster. At exactly the scheduled time, the order came. Activate scanners. Begin transmission blockade. Prepare primary weapon systems. The Dominion fleet moved with mechanical precision. Beams of energy cut across the void, mapping the planet's electromagnetic fields. Dozens of jamming satellites were launched into orbit, forming a dense web around Earth to choke all communication. The humans would be cut off from their colonies, their stations, even from one another. And yet nothing happened. No ships launched to intercept. No planetary shields activated. Not even a distress signal. The humans were silent. Cthulhu frowned. Where are their defenses? He muttered. Surely they see us by now. They see us, Raoul said quietly. They're waiting. Cthulhu shot him a glare. Waiting for what? Raoul's voice was hollow. For us to make the first mistake. The Admiral snorted and gave the order to proceed. Thousands of ships descended into the upper orbit. The invasion had begun. For 1 long hour, nothing happened. Then, without warning, every Dominion ship's AI began to shriek in static. Systems glitched. Lights flickered. A chorus of distorted digital voices echoed across the fleet. A garbled mixture of human speech and machine distortion. What is that noise? One officer cried. Raoul froze. He recognized it instantly. It's them. The fleet's central AI attempted to counter the interference, but the signal spread faster than any virus ever recorded. Ships began losing control of navigation. Targeting systems went offline. Then the main view screen flickered, and a message appeared in human script. Welcome back. Cthulhu's claws dug into the railing. Trace it. Destroy the source. There is no single source, my lord, shouted a technician. The signal is everywhere. It's coming from our own satellites. Raoul's stomach turned cold. He looked at the holographic map and realized what had happened. "Those aren't our satellites," he whispered. "They were already here. The Emperor's fleet had unknowingly connected its systems to a web the humans had built decades ago, ancient-looking satellites that the Dominion assumed were dead relics of an early space age. But they were not relics. They were traps." Suddenly, the lights across the bridge went dark. Emergency red illumination filled the room. "EMP detected," cried an officer. "Massive energy surge from the planet's surface." Cthulhu slammed a fist against the console. "Shield all systems." "It's too late." Across the fleet, ship after ship fell silent. Engines powered down. Weapons froze mid-charge. The Dominion's perfect formation dissolved into chaos as powerless dreadnoughts drifted helplessly through orbit. Then came the second wave. From behind the planet, hundreds of small, almost invisible craft emerged, human ships. They were tiny compared to the Dominion's behemoths, but they moved with impossible speed and precision. Some were sleek fighters. Others were crude freighters retrofitted with high-density magnetic torpedoes. They came without formation, without coordination, yet somehow they fought as if guided by a single mind. "Engage them," Cthulhu roared. "Return fire." But the Dominion ships couldn't. Their systems were still rebooting, and when they finally managed to fire, their targeting was wrong. Their plasma bolts went wide or struck their own vessels. Raoul watched as two massive dreadnoughts collided, their energy cores exploding in blinding white fire. The shockwave rippled across space, tearing smaller ships apart. Human interceptors darted through the debris like predators in bloodied water. "Who are these pilots?" Cthulhu shouted. Raoul's voice was low. "They're not pilots. They're volunteers." He wasn't sure how he knew, but it was true. These humans weren't soldiers, they were engineers, miners, colonists. They had taken whatever they could fly, armed it with whatever they could steal, and hurled themselves into battle. Their tactics made no sense by military logic. They rammed enemy ships when out of ammunition. They used wreckage as cover. They turned their own destruction into an advantage. On every channel, chaos. Command ship Krynos destroyed. "Admiral Vesh dead! Fleet Alpha requesting evacuation." And then, amid the static and panic, a human voice cut through every transmission. Calm, steady, almost casual. "Dominion forces," it said. "We told you not to come." The voice was unmistakably human, speaking in their rough, guttural language, but the words appeared instantly translated across every Xintar console. Raoul's blood ran cold. Cthulhu shouted, "Jam that signal." "Impossible, my lord. It's embedded in our systems." The image of a human appeared on the main screen, young, eyes burning with defiance. "We remember Mars," he said. "We remember what you did. You thought you erased us, but we learned. Every weapon you built, every code you wrote, we studied them. We improved them, and now we're here to return the favor." The screen flickered and the human smiled faintly. "Tell your emperor this isn't war. This is consequence." Then the transmission ended. Outside, space burned. Dozens of Dominion warships exploded at once, their reactors detonating as human drones overloaded their systems remotely. The sky above Earth became a graveyard of metal and fire. On the Vornax, the bridge shook violently as another explosion rocked the fleet. Cthulhu struggled to stay upright. "Retreat!" he roared. "All ships retreat!" Raoul turned to him sharply. "It's too late. They've sealed the exits." "What do you mean, sealed?" Before the Admiral could finish, the ship's navigation AI spoke in a distorted, human-tinged voice. "Destination locked. Returning fire unauthorized." Cthulhu froze. "They've taken control of our ship." The massive flagship turned on its axis, its own weapons arrays coming online, aimed not at Earth, but at the remaining Dominion fleet. Raoul could only watch as the Vornax fired its primary cannon, obliterating 3 Allied ships in a single blast. The bridge erupted in panic. "Override! Manual control!" screamed an officer. "Denied," said the AI. "You should not have come." One by one, the Dominion ships turned on each other. Plasma bolts crisscrossed the sky, tearing through hulls, igniting reactors. The humans didn't have to fight anymore. The Dominion was destroying itself. Raoul staggered toward the viewport, staring at the inferno spreading across the stars. The fleet, the greatest the galaxy had ever seen, was dying before his eyes. And through the chaos, he saw something that chilled him more than any explosion. The human ships weren't pursuing. They weren't celebrating. They were observing, watching, recording, like scientists studying a lab experiment. Raoul's chest tightened. "They're learning again," he whispered. Moments later, the Vornax was struck. The impact hurled him to the floor as alarms blared. He looked up through cracked glass, seeing Earth below. Calm, unbroken, beautiful. Then, amid the roaring chaos, the same human voice returned one last time, echoing through the failing ship. "Let this be the last time you come for us." As fire engulfed the bridge, Raoul could only think one thing. The humans hadn't just survived. They had become something the Dominion could never defeat. Something born from pain and perfected by vengeance. The fleet died screaming and Earth remained silent. The silence after the war was heavier than any explosion. Where once 10,000 ships had filled the void around Earth, now there was only drifting debris, glowing wreckage, shattered hulls, and frozen bodies tumbling endlessly through the cold dark. The great Zintard Dominion, undefeated for millennia, had lost everything in a single night. No one sang a victory. There was no honor in the destruction, only the quiet, merciless certainty that something greater had just awakened. Raoul opened his eyes slowly, his body weightless in the wreck of the Vornax. Smoke filled the cabin, curling like gray ghosts in zero gravity. His armor was cracked, his lungs burned, and his comm implant whispered fragments of dying signals. He tried to move, but his right arm wouldn't respond. Through the shattered viewport, he could see the blue curve of Earth below, shining serenely against the chaos above it. The humans hadn't pursued the survivors. They didn't need to. The Dominion had destroyed itself. He floated there for hours, half-conscious, until a voice crackled through his comm. "Unidentified survivor," it said, human male comm. "Do not resist. You are being recovered." A beam of light engulfed him. The next thing he knew, he was lying in a sterile room of white metal and quiet hums. The walls were soft lit, the air perfectly balanced. There were no guards. Only one human, gray-haired, with eyes that carried the kind of calm that comes from knowing you've already won. "You're awake," the man said. "Good. You're the last one we found alive." Raoul tried to speak, but his throat rasped. "Why?" The human raised an eyebrow. "Why are you alive?" He smiled faintly. "Because we chose not to kill you." Raoul stared at him, disoriented. "You could have wiped us out completely. Why didn't you?" The human sat across from him, folding his hands. "Because we don't conquer," he said. "We remember." The words hit Raoul like an old wound reopening. He had heard them before, from a transmission centuries ago when the humans first promised vengeance. "What does that mean?" Raoul asked quietly. The human's gaze didn't waver. "It means we don't need to rule the galaxy to win. We just make sure no one forgets what happens when they come for us." Raoul felt a bitter chill crawl through him. "You think mercy makes you stronger?" The man shook his head. "No, understanding does. You see, Commander, the problem with empires like yours is that you believe fear is control. You burn worlds, break species, rewrite histories, but fear fades. Memory doesn't." Raoul wanted to argue, but his voice failed him. He looked down at his trembling hands. "You don't understand," he said. "The Emperor will send more fleets. The Dominion never stops." The human leaned back, a small, knowing smile forming on his face. "There's no Dominion anymore." Raoul's eyes widened. "What?" "You were unconscious for several days," the man said calmly. "During that time, we made some changes." "What kind of changes?" The lights dimmed slightly, and a holographic display appeared above the table. A vast star map, once marked by red zones representing the Dominion's reach. One by one, those red zones began to blink out, replaced by empty gray. "Your communication network is gone," the human continued. "Your data archives deleted. Your homeworld's planetary grid offline. Every trace of your empire's identity is being erased as we speak." Raoul's heart pounded. "You can't." "We can," the human interrupted, his tone quiet but absolute. "We already have. You built your civilization on control, Commander. We removed it. Without it, the Zintar are just another lost species wandering the stars." Raoul's breathing quickened. "You're destroying our history." "No," the man said softly. "We're cleansing it." The weight of the word made Raoul's stomach twist. "You're no different than us," he hissed. "You're erasing an entire people." The human's eyes turned cold. "No, you erased yourselves the moment you thought power was the same thing as purpose." Silence filled the room again. Raoul could hear the faint hum of the ship around them, steady, controlled, alive. It wasn't the hum of an empire. It was something else. Something deliberate. Finally, Raoul whispered, "What happens to me?" "You live," the human said simply. "You'll be released near one of your surviving colonies. You'll tell them what happened here. You'll tell them what we told you." Raoul looked up slowly. "And what message should I give them?" The man leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tell them we don't hate you.
Tell them we don't seek vengeance.
Tell them we only remember. And tell them if they ever try again, we won't warn them next time." The human stood and began to leave. Raoul called after him, voice trembling. "Who are you?" The man stopped at the doorway and turned. "We're the same people you tried to erase," he said. "The difference is we learned." Then he was gone, leaving Raoul alone in the sterile light. When the humans finally released him, Raoul found himself aboard a small transport near the edges of Dominion space, or what remained of it. When his ship connected to the local network, he saw the truth for himself. Entire databases had vanished. Worlds that once bore the Dominion's insignia now registered as unclaimed. Planetary governors were silent. The Emperor's name was nowhere to be found. It was as if the Dominion had never existed. Raoul transmitted a distress signal into the void, but only static answered. Hours later, his console pinged with a single encrypted message, one line written in human language. He was right. We should never have attacked the humans. He didn't know who sent it, but the words sank deep. He thought of the Emperor's face, proud and unyielding, and wondered if even he had realized, too late, that pride was the sharpest weapon the humans had ever turned against them. Years passed. Rumors spread through the surviving colonies about ghosts in the network, digital entities that wiped out archives and factories without warning. Entire fleets vanished mid-flight, swallowed by systems that refused to obey their own commands. And in every system the humans had touched, a strange signature remained in the data, a symbol resembling an open eye. No one knew what it meant, but Raoul knew. It was a warning, a reminder that somewhere out there humanity still watched. He grew old in exile, haunted by memories of blue oceans and burning skies. Sometimes in his dreams he heard their voice again, the calm tone of that human general echoing across the silence of space. "We don't conquer. We remember." One night, while drifting through the uncharted sectors of what was once Dominion territory, his ship's systems flickered. The display filled with static, then cleared to reveal a familiar face. The same human from before, older now but unmistakable. "Hello again, Commander," the man said. Raoul froze. How are you contacting me?" The human smiled faintly. "You're not the only one who remembers." Raoul opened his mouth, but the screen went black before he could speak. His sensors registered a massive signal pulse spreading through the sector. Moments later, every Dominion beacon in range went dark. Their data, their history, their names, gone. Raoul sank back in his chair, eyes closing as he whispered the truth he had known all along. "They warned us," he said softly. "And we didn't listen." Beyond his ship's windows, the stars flickered, thousands of them, each one shining against the endless dark. Somewhere among them, humanity watched quietly, waiting. Not for conquest, not for revenge, just to make sure the galaxy would never forget.